Hey everybody, I'm Jody Vance.
And I'm George-Affleck.
And it's time for
Vancouver, Vancouver, you're the city for me. Maybe not, I don't know. UnSpun. You know, that song was written by my grandmother, by the way. I think, she wrote that song, like my Nana.
Really?
When we were little kids. Yeah.
Really?
Apparently she said that. I've never heard it otherwise. That's she says she wrote it. I believe her. If somebody else wrote it, let me know.
George, all the money. If so,
Yeah.
When did things change, George? When did the spiral begin? When did it start?
You are on fire, by the way, this today, as of recording with your latest tweet about Kit's pool, and it's just indicative of what is wrong with what is going on in Vancouver. It's falling apart, literally falling apart. It's not the city for me anymore. I mean, really, it's embarrassing. It's a mess. Park board, council. We've got our list today for just Vancouver. It's nuts. It's nuts.
Yeah, usually we'll sit down for the 10 minutes. This is our process for the 10 minutes before we hit record on the podcast, because we record live to tape, whether you watch it or you listen to it. It's just George and I talking. And usually we'll sit and go, okay, what are the big stories? And it's all about the dysfunction in the city of Vancouver specifically, off the top here. And I will dive in, and I mean that pun, on Kit's pool. I love this city, right? And I'm getting to the point now where I'm questioning my love for it, because I'm so frustrated watching the people who are paid with our tax dollars to care for this city and to care for our parks, who are failing so miserably. And there's some really good people. We say this all the time. Behind the scenes, there are hardworking staffers. There are people that are trying their best, that are really frustrated. My DMs are open, and I am hearing from people going, never, never, never mention my name, but this is what's happening behind the scenes. And one day I'm going to write a book. When the names no longer matter, I'm going to write a book. I'll change the names to protect the innocent. But holy moly,
just cut
George!
And paste all your DMs. Just cut and paste all your DMs, and it's a book right there.
Well, I'd love to cut and paste the mansplaining. Like, please,
yes,
stop.
I've seen it even publicly. So bad.
It's somebody actually called me right wing.
How horrible. How does that feel?
It feels like they're dumb. Because I'm many things, but I'm not right wing. Let me start with the pool. Can I?
Yeah, let's take a step back here, and in case anybody hasn't heard this who listens to this podcast outside of Vancouver, and if you've never been to this pool, it's one of the most wonderful. It's the Kit's pool at Kit's Point, Kit's area. If you know Kit's, it's sort of off the city downtown area. Beautiful pool, outdoor. Yes. Partly salted pool, I think it is.
Yeah, it's 137 and a half meters of saline and chlorine. So not 100% salt water. Back in the early days of my life, it was ocean fed. So you'd actually be swimming in ocean water, that murky Canadian ocean water. But you wouldn't have to worry. Well, I still did worry about sharks because I was just a little kid. But it was like fed by the ocean, right? So there's a part of this. But 3 years ago, Kit's pool was revamped. It was tented. Millions and millions and millions of dollars was spent to upgrade the pool. And, and I love this pool. I'm a miler. From May to September, I swim in that pool every single day if I can work it in. It was like my commute when I lived in Kitsilano. I would just pack my stuff and go there and swim a mile as my way home from work. And I love this. It's a great space. Families use it. My son learned to swim there. My grandmother used to swim there. It's inclusive for people of all abilities and capabilities. It's wheelchair accessible in a way that very few other places. Like, there's so much about this pool. CNN called it the world's greatest outdoor pool. Literally. That's something. So when I heard the news and it came out like this: Kit's pool likely will not open this season. And I was like, well, sorry, no, that can't be right. And then I looked deeper, and sure enough, it's like the explanation on the video, that poor guy that had to do the video. I mean, it's just like PR, spin. My head was spinning, spin.
We have to get the engineers in to check everything out. And
the reason why we're announcing it now The reason why we're answering it now and announcing it today is because we didn't. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be mocking his
Yeah,
voice,
you
but
should be
it came
careful.
across like that explainer of
No,
like, don't hold me to account here. But it was the big king tide plus the storm in January. Okay, people, it's April.
Mhm.
It's April. And then they're like, we couldn't empty the pool and safely until. Yes, you could have. You could have. The pool was tented and was worked on all off season for the better part of over a year, for that matter. Like, there are ways of doing this. Like, it's just absolute spin. And anyways, I'm going deeper than I thought. But it's like, look at the crack in the thing, and look at the thing. Yeah, it's busted. It's going to be hella expensive to fix. Fix it.
Yeah.
Fix the pool.
I am at a loss at the argument and the people that have attacked you and mansplaining to you, and who are what do you think you are, Jody, an engineer? Come on, this is complicated. And of course, there are my safety concerns. Yeah, what would happen if
Sure.
it fell into the ocean or whatever? But literally, just 2 weeks ago, we were talking about how the Coquihalla opened up, which was damaged in November, and reopened up last month. And we're talking not just how big is the kids pool? It's like 120 meters,
137 and a half
100,
meters long.
100,
Yeah.
137 and a half. How long is Coquihalla Highway? Like a couple of hundred kilometers. I don't know. Anyways, they managed to fix that. One bridge on the Coquihalla is probably 3 times the size of the pool, and they managed to pull it off. Although some of it temporary, of course, along the Coquihalla, but it was a priority to get it done. Everybody came together and made it work, and there was money to be had. And I think that might be what the issue is here. This park board,
You're
as you
right.
and I have talked about, has wasted their money. They are incompetent as a board of directors of our city's parks. Clearly, they mismanage their funds. They don't spend it properly. They haven't built a community center in years. Years. They haven't built a pool in years. They have
No, the
there's a
facade fell off the other pool.
there's the pool
Apparently,
down
they
in
knew
the West End.
the
Yeah,
fasteners on the aquatic center in the West End, they knew they were faulty and left them.
the last
And then the
pool to
facade
be
fell
built
off
was
of it.
when. Yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's dangerous.
Dangerous.
And I'm not going to get us started on the cones in Stanley Park and all that millions and millions of dollars that was spent, because we don't want to get this, because you have been pulled into that bike argument on this one, which is it's such a red herring, but it is about budgeting and prioritizing. And if you look at your infrastructure and it's falling apart, the existing infrastructure, before you start adding anything, and this is what drives me crazy about city council, before you start adding and putting more, and 250 300 motions about your own personal ideas and your passion for bike lanes and their passion for this and that, and you want to raise your personal profile as a politician. Hey, whoa, look at your budget. Let's make sure we're doing our job here, getting the stuff that needs to get done, like making sure the wall doesn't fall off of a building that you own in the downtown area, in the south,
The
in what's
most
West End,
populous
basically.
part. The most populous
If that had
part of
happened
the
in the middle
city.
of the
Yeah.
day, it was the middle of the night. If it happened, that could have killed somebody at that pool. Kit's pool has been damaged. It was damaged in January. They knew it. They knew it. We saw what happened. They could have got in there. Come on, you're telling me you couldn't get a bunch of engineers, but money's the issue, and competency of this board. They don't prioritize. The cones are back up in Stanley Park, no problem. They blew over during that same storm, and they got them up the next day, no problem. Priorities of this park board. Stop it. Focus.
I love that you are verbalizing my frustration in such a succinct way, George Affleck. No, it truly is. Because the frustration with both the park board in this city and with city council and the mayor's office, whatever you want to, our elected officials, those who would use our tax dollars to do what needs doing, infrastructure, maintenance, and repair in this city, are failing, period. And we need to go back to the basics of fill the pot. Have you ever seen so many potholes in the city? Have you ever seen so much graffiti? Ever, ever, ever across this town. I was
Mm-hmm.
driving down, West 4th Avenue, where it turns into 6th Avenue before it turns into 2nd Avenue. And I was kind of stuck in sort of stop and go traffic. And I realized that every single telephone pole in Fairview is tagged. Every single one of them. Every one. I'm like, that used to be my neighborhood. I used to live there. And I thought, I don't remember seeing
The
graffiti. And then I
broken
started
windows
looking around a
concept.
bit more.
Yep.
And every fence has a tag on it.
Mm-hmm.
and we can go, we'll get into Chinatown, and driving through there is like shocking, but going across the Georgia Viaduct, the back of every major street direction sign that's like, take this exit for Prior Street or whatever,
Tagged.
on the back of all of those is like an art installation, an
Tag
illegal
on a
art
tag on a tag
installation,
on a
on a
tag
tag, on
on
a
a
tag, on a
tag on a
tag.
tag on a tag.
So
Hey,
back to
you know what
parkboard
though?
though, like they're not fixing.
Well, where? Hey, isn't like 25 people running for mayor? Where the hell are they? Where are all the candidates, including John Cooper? I haven't heard them a peep from any of these mayoral candidates. I don't know. I know they're not running for park board, but I haven't heard a peep about this kids pool thing from any of those guys
That's true.
or women or anything.
Or
I
the
mean, what
mayor.
is going?
How
Or the
about
mayor?
the
Yeah, well, that's
actual
not a
mayor?
shocker. That's not a shocker.
But George, it adds to the frustration that the pools, the parks, the beaches, the places and the spaces that are not being kept up, the goose poo, right?
Mm-hmm.
The rats, the let's just let the grass grow, which then ends up having all kinds of God only knows what. And I'm not letting my kids run around in knee-high grass in a city park. Like, that's just, we know what could
This
possibly be hiding in there.
the spin on that, like, oh yeah, it's naturalization or whatever, blah blah blah. Yeah, you don't want to cut the lawn. Just admit it. Come on,
Admit
too
you don't
cheap.
have the
You whatever.
money.
You don't want to. You put your money in the wrong place. You don't have the funds to get the staff to go there and cut it. Let's get real. This is such a bunch of spin BS from this park board. I'm not. I can't see. I think it's unbelievable to me, this park board and this council, what they're doing, especially in the last couple of weeks. It's just this list I'm looking at. Chinatown. You touched on that. Melissa de Genova tried to put a motion forward about some free parking and dealing with Chinatown. At the same time, we have the postal workers saying they don't want to deliver in the downtown east side anymore. Canada Post, they're supposed to deliver, and they're saying no, it's not safe. And yet this council completely, decided to water down her motion. They're just basically close your eyes, cover your eyes, and just ignore it. We have our own little issues that we want to throw forward about this or
Yeah.
that because we want to get reelected. You're not going to get reelected if you don't do your job.
Right. The city is a shambles. It's a shambles. And looking at Chinatown is tragic. And the fact that the answer is a 6-month study on reducing the cost of parking is so polarizing to we're going to charge you extra
Timing
to
on
park in
that.
front of your house. Like, it's just, they've choked the city to the degree that nobody can actually go and care and love it. Like, when was the last time, I'm going to go back to the park here momentarily. When was the last time you drove to Stanley Park, parked, and hung out for the day down there?
Oh, I don't. You can't even bother. It's I luckily I live downtown, so we ride our bikes there
Exactly.
around the seawall. I have preference because my youngest doesn't like going up that giant hill, which last year we couldn't ride around the park because of this park board. And now you can't actually ride around it again because of the storm, and they haven't put that as a priority either to fix that. That's not that park, that seawall. Okay, we're going back there, but it's another, just like, oh my god, the seawall is it's not going to get fixed. Probably not in our lifetime. My god, you can think of the projects. There's a dock. Have you seen the dock in Cole Harbor? There's a dock in Cole Harbor, right?
Yeah.
At the park there. When
Yeah.
was the last time that was open? They closed it for safety reasons. The concrete dock, brand new. It's been closed for I think 6 years.
I think you're right.
Why? Why? Why is it closed? Why haven't you fixed it? What have you been doing for 6 years on this a brand new dock at Cole Harbor for pleasure crafts for people with boats so they can pull up, wander in the city, go get a snack at the restaurant there, whatever. Closed
Yeah.
because this park board hasn't fixed it, and now they've got a seawall chunks missing along there. Nope, that's not going to get fixed in our lifetime probably with this park board or
I
any
hope you're
future park
wrong.
board. It's just and then you look at the downtown
I
east side and Melissa trying to fix, find solutions. No to that. You got postal workers afraid to go downtown because we're not dealing with what's going on in the downtown east side. It's endless. It's
It
endless.
is. Well, we don't even touch on the SRO that burnt down. Where do those
Right.
500 people go? Right? And it's
All the
not
mayor had to
supply
say
and
was, "Well, we're
demand.
not going to." All the mayor said, "Well, we're not going to do. We shouldn't have private SROs anymore." Okay, well, well, that's not a solution. Just what is the
Where
solution,
do
and
those
where's the
people
province
go?
and the federal government on that? Immediate
Yeah.
action on these things need to be done. We already were under we have less SROs, less homes for people like that. People who are homeless or in core need. People, as a mathematical equation, those numbers have been reduced in the last 30 years in Vancouver, not replaced. Now we have a whole building gone. It's
Yeah.
crazy. I mean,
It's crazy. Well, like you say about Oppenheimer Park or Strathcona Park, and what we witnessed with those tent cities, to think that that's not going to happen again when we're talking about and to people who are living at or below the poverty line, who are living in their cars and moving,
mhm.
to. I heard an interview on with Mike Smith, a guy that had been living in his van. He's like getting his uh,
I heard that too.
economics degree in.
Yeah.
Did you hear that guy? Like, he's like, yeah, I park there. It costs me whatever, $300 a month to park my car while I'm taking my university courses. And then I just live in my van, so I use the facilities at the gym at the university because I'm allowed, so I can shower in there. And then I drive into neighborhoods after everybody's drawn their blinds, and then I leave before they open their blinds. It's like, so somebody really legitimately trying to not disrupt communities by living in their car. That's where we're at now. We need like a roadmap to how to live in your vehicle. No, that is not a successful city. This city was once a place to come for immigrants. I'm of immigrants, right? Like my family, when
Mhm.
they came here, the mechanic and the physician wife who couldn't get, her certification, and they were able to buy a small place at the corner of Broadway and Collingwood. They literally owned the corner of Broadway and Collingwood beside Coe's Lumber, and they ran the two duplexes that they owned, and they lived in half of one. That is an opportunity that used to come with living here. And there is
Mhm.
none of that anymore. There's none anymore. It's like, how can we nickel and dime you to death to not fix the road that you live on, to not pick up your garbage, to not fix the potholes, to not maintain the schools? We talked about that last week or the week before in terms of like, you can't even fix and clean a school where it's not cleaned, and there's no
It's
actionable way to fix it except for to pay more and see your money go to waste.
And this, your little point about your parents, and it kind of goes back to your previous column about density, and my parents, my dad was from PEI, and my mom was from Wales, and they both moved here in the late 50s. They both lived in what were single family homes in the West End, which are long gone. I think actually one's now a co-op, and those single family homes have been turned into little small teeny apartments. Is there?
Yeah,
And my dad was 21 when he moved here, and that's what they lived in because they were able to turn those what were 4-bedroom houses or whatever in the
into
downtown
rooming
core into a
houses.
bunch
Yeah,
of rooms and had
yeah.
little bathrooms or whatever, shared bathrooms maybe, but you don't do that. It's not permitted anymore. It's too complicated. It's too expensive. You have to do all this process. So you think back to the West End in the 1950s when you had all these homes, single family homes that were eventually torn down and the towers were replaced because that's what happens in a growing city. You don't have to build towers everywhere right away. You can start, and eventually the market kind of tells you where the density will go and how high it'll go with some planning, of course. But the ability to have those kinds of significant numbers of units back then is impossible now. And so if you're moving here as a 21-year-old now, you got to find a 1-bedroom apartment, or you live in your van like that dude at UBC, or you find a 1-bedroom apartment and you share with like 4 people.
Yeah.
Which is, what's the difference then? Okay, how have we progressed? You're not allowing people to turn their single family homes into multi-units or have lots of people. It's just, I don't understand. The city's just so backwards and so out of touch with what's really going on, especially if you're a young person trying to start up their life here.
It is, and it's frustratingly layered in costs and red tape, and
Mm-hmm.
if you know your way around it, you might be successful. But the average person, the average taxpayer, the person that's trying to just live here and work here, can't navigate that system, and they kind of count on our inability to react in a way. Like, I think that's why how we started here is why I got so much attention on my social media post that was just like, fix the pool, fix what's broken, fix
Yeah.
what's clearly broken. And people are like, and this, and this, and this. And then there are the people like, you don't know what you're talking about. And then I look at their bio, I'm like, right, okay. So clearly, it got, like you said, it got to be about the red herring of, well, people should just be cycling down to Kit's Pool. And I'm like, this is not about bikes and it's not about pools. It's about infrastructure that's busted.
I have brought this up before, Jody. I live in a strata development. You're in a mini strata, I think. Is it a strata? Or is it your single?
Non-conforming strata, yeah.
Okay, I'm in a 300 unit strata building. So we are required to put our long-term facilities, our management program is a provincial requirement that we
Right.
plan for the next 25 years, and we fund it, and we put a money aside that we can't touch. And we've got, I think now, about a year's worth of revenue set aside. We're actually really good at saving money in my building because I'm the treasurer.
Because you
So
are good. Yeah.
but it's way more than we're supposed to. But we also, because we have this required plan, we know exactly when we have a pool. We know when we're actually going to deal with that this year at our AGM. We got to do the reboot. We got to redo the pool. It's going to cost us $2 million. We got to redo it. We're going to redo the plumbing in 3 years. We got to do it. We're putting this is what it's roughly going to cost. Are you telling me the park board doesn't talk about this? Of course they don't, but they certainly know. I mean, the Kit's pool.
They're punching it. They're
And when
punching
stuff
it.
happens, like that,
Yeah.
there should be a contingency. Or you say, I mean, if this park board was at all competent, we keep going back to this park board thing, but I'm thinking it's
I know,
about
because it's
management.
frustrating.
But if they had been competent in their management, and this anomaly of this, this what happened at the pool. Can you imagine if they said, we don't have enough money, but we're going to do some private sector person would probably go, let's do a fundraiser. I swim at this pool every day. Let's do a fundraiser and try to raise whatever, $5 million to get this pool fixed and whatever. But of course, nobody wants to get behind that because nobody looking at the park board. You look at this board, this elected board, and you go, why would I trust you with my money? I don't trust you with my money now. I'm not going to give you more. So they're in this dilemma where it's an election year, so we're basically, here's your chance, but this pool is not going to open this summer. There's no way. This park board just not going to happen, and it sucks.
And it's a money thing. It's not it can't be done thing. It's a we don't have the money for it thing. That's the spin on this. Let's move to another type of sport. Take it away from the pool and move over to the Olympics, because that motion was dead in the water, right?
That was brutal. I mean, Colleen Hardwick, and I think her argument is quite solid for doing a plebiscite.
Why
As
not?
part of the ballot? But she got mired. Two things happened. One was she didn't talk to the First Nations groups to talk to them in advance and then warn them that she was bringing this forward. So that made it look a bit egocentric, that she was focused on her own political capital and gain and opportunity by bringing this motion forward. But when I listen to her and I hear her arguments for it, they actually are quite solid. But she couldn't get traction at all in this council, and they just shut her out, and it didn't even see the light of day, really. And it's 6 months, whatever the plan is. It's unfortunate because it is such a politically sensitive thing. And I would imagine that they're going, well, if we did approve this and it didn't pass, what then? What is the ramifications of the people of Vancouver saying they don't want the Olympics, which we should know the man who probably don't want the Olympics, but what is is it 60%?
Isn't that the ultimate public consultation, George?
You think?
Isn't
I'm
it?
not a big
Even
fan of
though only
referendums, but
30% of eligible voters in vote in a municipal election, which is the number that always boggles my mind. I'm going to remind people right now two things. Number one, we vote on October 15th, 2022, and number two, that's George's birthday. So actually, no, number two is you don't.
Keith Morgan, one of our listeners, loves to say, George, is she going to talk about your birthday again? It's going to be a bigger day for your birthday than the election, probably.
There you go. But I want people to remember, and it's something that I didn't know in the last municipal election because I was overwhelmed by the ballot. Because the ballot, it felt, has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was literally like standing in the booth like, I don't know. And I'd looked at the bios and I've tried to figure out, and I'd gone in with some knowledge. And now I know I don't need to fill in every box. I don't need to vote for school trustees that are a school board that I just recognize their name, because that's what ends up happening in those voting situations. You feel like, oh, I've heard of that person before. That'll be a good person, I'm sure.
Before you even turn the ballot over. I would say that Colleen is tapped into something here, and an election is a kind of referendum. And so because now every other single councillor didn't support her, which I think was really a mistake. They should have, politically, I would have, I see the opportunity that she's created for herself here, because now she's the lone voice for what might be a majority of the people of this city who think that maybe, and who are unwilling to talk about it because of the First Nation stuff. They don't want to be offensive. They feel like, okay, reconciliation and all that stuff. They're concerned about the optics, but when they go to the ballot and they're looking at that ballot, and Colleen Hardwick's running for mayor, and they're saying, you know, she's the only one that said, maybe we should think about this
Let's do
Olympics
this.
thing.
Yeah.
And the other ones didn't say a peep. All the billions of other ones running for mayor, and all the councillors that are running, all the new parties and names, like 6 new parties. It's like the ballot's going to be a nightmare. So I would say that from a political point of view and from a spin, she has come out like pretty solid here, because that, I think it's a silent majority right now in Vancouver who are 100% behind Colleen Hardwick on this Olympics question for sure.
Which then again adds more likelihood that Kennedy-Stewart becomes mayor again,
Yeah, I don't
right?
think she has enough to win
She's the Shauna
unless
Sylvester of this, right?
potentially. Yeah, I think she'll. I think, I think my guess with all the
Or the
other.
Ken Sim.
Yeah, all against him. ABC and his he captured the three former MPAs this week. He big announcement that they joined his party. I imagine somebody came at me, and it was Ken Bain, who used to be on staffer at City Hall, but he made a good point that we don't know what their process is yet. So they just joined the party. So I imagine they'll be in a process.
What does
Maybe.
that mean? You keep rolling your eyes for people just listening and
Well,
not seeing your
this is a
face. You're like
guy.
saying
This guy
process.
Ken Sim didn't
Yeah.
have a process, and he's the mayoral candidate. He was part of the MPA that there was all these shenanigans that we've heard now a lot about behind the scenes. That was there, and there was no process. There was no nomination when he ran for mayor. There, for the candidates, only for him against
Yeah.
John Cooper, and he won. So that was legit. But the council candidates was all a backroom deal, and there were good people like Rob McDowell who got the boot, who worked his
Yeah.
butt off for the MPA for years, and so I'm highly skeptical that the ABC party will have any kind of open process. But I forget my point about
The
all the
3
other
women that
ballots.
joined. Yeah.
And I think that's a really smart move, though, on their part. And I said that on Twitter, is that as independents, they had no chance at all. But with a party that has, well, who knows? We got an email saying, do they have $100,000 or $1 million? I think people need to look at what this ABC party and Ken Sim and the numbers he's saying
We
he
got
has.
it. We
And
got a tip. We got an anonymous tip that
yeah,
said everybody the spin that there is a big fat bank account is erroneous. So we can't independently obviously confirm that, but
somebody should verify
um,
that, because I'd be
somebody
curious.
should verify. Yeah,
No
because
candidate should go into an election, and I'm not saying that Ken Sim is, based on false information. That's not cool. So
right.
I would say I hope a reporter looks into that and covers that and sees if that inside information, or it's public. They said it was elections BC information. We haven't had a chat. That was just before this. Anyways, I think that they have those 3 women, Lisa Dominato, Rebecca Bly,
Sarah
and
Kirby-Young.
Sarah Kirby
Yeah.
Young. By joining a party, they wouldn't have won as independents, but now with a party, even though I say Ken Sim has no chance, they actually could propel them into council. Although you've got the Green Party running 5, it's just like, I don't know, it's going to be a mess. People are going to have a real tough time. Going back to your point about choosing candidates, be selective, and choose the best people that you want. Not all. You don't have to choose all 10. I think if you don't think you can find 10 good people, don't choose 10 good people. Choose 5 good people. Choose the
I'm
good
gonna
people.
I'm gonna circle back to the park board because I'm definitely going to be filling in that portion of the ballot, and I'm definitely not voting for the people who have formed the voting bloc that have pushed through their agenda during this term. That I will know for sure. Make sure you know who's pissing you off on park board, and do not vote for them on October 15th, 2022. Yes, I will keep saying this until then. I do want to talk a little bit of COVID-19 in this province because that's
Yes,
what my column is about. And to mask or not to mask, we talk about this all the time. You and
I
I through
know. I was reading it,
all
going, it
of
was like
COVID,
our conversation. Yeah,
which I often do. I
yeah,
often do take conversations that you and I have had, which last week's was as well when we talked about gentle density and towers and the process and whatever.
right.
I've learned a lot from you, George, and people should tune in to UnSpun podcast for that conversation
Follow
that,
us on Twitter.
yeah, at George
George underscore.
Affleck, at Jody Vance, Jody with a Y Vance. I'm going to show you this for our listeners. I'm holding up a
Yes.
COVID-19 rapid test. Another one. I went 2 years not testing at all, but my son woke up with a sore throat this morning. He is home today from school. He tested negative, but he's going to stay home and I'll test him again. I tested him yesterday. I'll test him today. I'll test him tomorrow. If he still has symptoms, he will stay home. even if it's not COVID, he's sick. He's not going anywhere. That's why we can have choice in public on whether or not to wear a mask or to not wear a mask. He does wear a mask at school. He likes it. I wear a mask when I go into enclosed spaces with people I don't know, but when I'm hanging out and going for a dog walk, I don't wear a mask. When I go over to my girlfriend's house, she's, in her third round of chemotherapy, I do a rapid test and I wear a mask. So
whereas
know your
I'm
risk.
like in a smaller grocery store, I might wear a mask. If I'm at Home Depot, don't bother.
Right.
So I'm very loose about the mask thing in hospitals and doctor's appointments, 100%.
For sure.
But, I think, your column's really good. I think let's not vilify each other. You like masks. I don't like masks. Who cares? It's fine.
My line was this.
Out.
You ready? This was my line in my column that I knew I was done. Less livid, more living.
Nice. On that note.
And then I go on Twitter and I argue with the mansplainers.
You got livid. But you're also living.
Also living. I'm living the dream, man, because I'm going to hold these people to account until I
sell
and move out of this town.
And I'm going to tease you. Jody and I are working on an idea that we'll probably announce soon that's going to work off this, I think. But I'm not going to tell you what it is yet.
I'm going to put it this way, George. This is my tease. Let's see if I can get a job at Curve Communications. If you think my Twitter is rallying the electorate, wait till you see what George and I have planned.
And on that note,
bye.
Goodbye.